Good evening and welcome to the Chaska City Council meeting for Monday, June 17th. We'll call the meeting to order at 7 o'clock. Will you please stand and join me in pledge allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Nate, will you call roll, please?
Yes. Councilmember Hatfield.
Here.
Councilmember Hubbard. Here. Councilmember Wong. Here. Councilmember Grau.
Here.
And Mayor Winchell.
Here. Moves us to item number 4, adopting the agenda. Are there corrections or additions to the agenda? Did you all have an opportunity to add to the agenda? Just checking. If there are no corrections or additions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda, adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Wang,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hatfield to adopt the agenda. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Moves us on to item 5, which is visitor presentation. I got a phone call from one of the, I'm going to bring it up for business next door, concerned about the having the farmers market here. He's given us all some letters and
I'll pass it down. Real quick, so I think
the concern is he feels that this parking lot's so busy and closing it for the day would really make it challenging on his business and the businesses around, and he went to talk about the library and the handicap stalls, which one of the businesses, and I'll give just some history of it, one of the businesses had talked about, he is an in-and-out business, that we were gonna place some spots there. The handicaps parking spots would be there. So the vital spots would still be there, but the overall concern is that he just feels that this may not have been the right place and felt that maybe they just didn't feel that they had a voice in it moving here. Now, most of these businesses that have multiple peoples, and I think that one person was talked to and maybe the other one didn't find out. So, so I'm kind of just bringing this to the forefront just as we move. The farmers market is happening Wednesday, and I told him that that is not changing, that will happen, and that our ultimate goal will look and see if it's really causing these concerns. It's, you know, like I said, it's once a week from now until September 11th, I believe is the final date, but.
I'll give a little history. So this has been actually in the planning since maybe March, February or March, maybe even before that.
I think even maybe before, but yeah.
And as part of the process, one of the things that it was basically the city, the Downtown Business Alliance, and the chamber partnered together to put this on. The reason it moved is because we got the road construction over at City Square Park this year. One of the first things that happened is a group of 3, so Nate, Jeff Philippek from the Southwest Chamber, and then Jen Angel from the Downtown Business Alliance, went around and met with all the business owners in here just to basically talk about what the plan was and talk about any concerns they may have. During those meetings, we did have one business that expressed concern, and this is the drop-in one that the mayor is referring to. In that case, we said, well, we can pretty simply put some reserved parking out on the street, so on 5th Street, to be able to accommodate his customers coming in and put it closest to where they could access in. Maybe I don't want to put words in Nate's mouth. Maybe he could talk about generally the conversations that were had.
Yeah, we did visit with all the businesses that are located on the block and the businesses that are across the street, across 5th Street from City Hall Plaza, to let them know the plan and to have the to have the farmers market located at City Hall Plaza. Explain the reason for that was construction neighboring City Square Park, and that the farmers market would need to be moved because of that. We had explored a number of different options, and one of the key criteria that we set at that time was finding a location that would help promote a spillover effect to benefit neighboring businesses. So hopefully by drawing in a crowd, there's businesses that would benefit from that. Fireman's Park is one of the options that we did look at there, but we did recognize that one of the criticisms, I guess, of Fireman's Park from downtown businesses that we've heard has been that a lot of people do go to the events that are held at Fireman's Park, but drawing them into the greater downtown area across 61, Highway 61 in particular, can be a very challenging thing to do, and that a lot of time people are coming to the event, they attend the event, and then they get back in their car and they go home. So we thought this is an opportunity to test out a different location for the farmers market. City Hall Plaza is something similar in concept to what we are planning to do with City Square West redevelopment, with the public plaza that's planned for that. And this would be an opportunity to test out a plaza-like environment for an event like the farmers market, which we do think could be a good fit for the City Square West Plaza when that's built. So there's a number of reasons that went into this. There was conversation that involved the downtown business special service district, some of the businesses that are in the vicinity, primarily restaurants that expressed interest in having it in this location because they saw benefits to that. And then we did sit down one-on-one with each of the businesses on this block and have the conversation. There were concerns expressed, but I think they were, at least I walked away from those meetings thinking that they were willing to see how things worked. We did talk about reserving parking on 5th Street, and, keeping that available for people who are coming to frequent some of these businesses. And we also talked about marketing opportunities that, the Realty, for example, could take advantage of, trying to get in front of people who are attending the farmers market, their listings and their services, and raise awareness that way. So hopefully they could see some benefit in that. But
I think the other thing too that we're implementing at the same time is really a parking management plan with the people who actually utilize this building. So like all of our employees, and we've talked to the library and stuff, typically we don't, except for the very far road to the back, we don't have our employees park in the parking lot out here. They basically sort of park around the blocks here or in that parking lot across the street that we own. We're actually having employees every Wednesday actually park a block off so that they're not in competition for the limited parking spots that are here. And we've talked to the library about that as well. So trying to open up any parking spots that might be just around this block. And I think the other thing is, this is brand new. And so I think one of the things that we really need to do with this is, I think people are going to be, I'm impressed with the number of vendors that the Southwest Chamber is able to get, and I think it's going to be something that has a very positive impact on downtown for drawing people down on a weekly basis down here. And yet there's always issues that go with events. And so one of the things that we're going to be doing this Wednesday, since it's the first time it's ever happened, is really watching it. Watch what happens. See how where people are parking, where peaks end up being. Issues that might arise with businesses, and really listening to what are those things that pop up, so that before that next week we can be responsive to those things. We can, if we see an issue with some parking for people who might have appointments or something like that, looking at putting temporary reserve parking that's out in the street or things like that. So I wouldn't. You shouldn't expect that whatever we're going into week 1 is exactly what it's going to look like in week 11 or whatever it is. This is going to be a work in progress to make sure that it's as little disruption as possible to the businesses. And if there are issues, that we need to listen to those and look for solutions to be able to address it. So.
Yeah, on the flip side of this, I know Size is planning to run specials. They're wanting to draw on the crowd.
Red Bench Bakery.
Red Bench Bakery has talked about potentially doing some things. The Legion is doing specials, and they're going to be serving, their food and drinks out on their patio space and interacting with the farmers market that way. The consignment shop, I know I talked to the owner of that business, and she was thrilled by the opportunity to have sidewalk sales going on during the farmer's market. So, you know, there's people that are excited and seeing benefit in it, and then there's, you know, these folks that are expressing concern too. And, you know, we heard both of that when we sat down and talked to all of them.
Can I comment as a business owner that owns a storefront studio in a neighboring community? I sympathize with these people. I'm a service-oriented business that's not necessarily retail, and so the one day out of the year in my neighboring community, that draws in a lot of people. It's a very fun and festive time, but it's very frustrating to be the owner of a brick and mortar and not be able to access your building or have your clients access your building. So I really do sympathize with these particular businesses that raised a concern, just because obviously it's gonna be an ongoing thing. So I think, yeah, I would like to see just the monitoring and maybe possibly having some parking for them, for their clients, because I think that's just a nice gesture, since it is a little bit of an inconvenience for them and their clients, so.
The good thing is that we do have real accessible parking on Fifth Street here to the City Hall parking lot. So there's a logical bank of parking that we would actually reserve to do that. And there's actually access breakthroughs that actually come through into the plaza. So I do think there's some logical places where we can do that.
So is that section of Fifth Street gonna be, marked that, like, for farmers parking?
Well, we had a few spaces, but we can certainly look at adding more.
Yeah,
I don't,
Yeah.
I mean,
we've talked about the whole bank that really stretches from 41 to the entrance of the parking lot, and putting up signage that would, you know, communicate that the intent of that parking is for the businesses on the block.
so would that include the farmer's market then, or would that be at a different place?
No, we'd want that just to be for the businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so that would be like signed as for whichever, businesses that are on that area that would be impacted.
We actually already have one business in City Hall Plaza that actually puts up their own sign for that, so it's not like we haven't seen it before. I mean, people do it, and, you know, even though enforceability is an issue, most people are pretty respectful of that. I mean, if they see that, they'll respect that's there and understand that, you know, this is businesses coinciding with a community event, so.
For me, just to clarify, one, I guess I don't know if we've named these three companies that we're looking at, or businesses, just as is public information, but are they all in the same building? I mean, obviously, the two letters reference each other. They're all similar businesses. Is it one, we're talking like one?
Two buildings.
Two buildings, but they're right next to
But
each
they're adjacent to each
other.
other.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just needed to clarify, kind
Yeah.
of, I knew where a couple were, but I just
Yeah.
wanted to.
And then the third one that did express interest early is right next to that one.
Okay.
So, I mean, obviously, it's the three that would be most impacted.
Yep.
One at this particular time is empty, so.
And all of these are businesses that are a part of like the Downtown Business Alliance and had access to those meetings where some of that planning was going on. Right, okay.
So in the hours of the businesses that are affected, because the event goes from 3 till 7.
Yeah, the issue is that we have to close down the parking lot at noon
Right.
to be able to get everybody out and get the vendors set up.
So there's a noon till like 5 or 6.
Noon to
or
5 is
noon
the
to 5,
issue.
yeah, okay.
Yep. But, you know, I personally think that we're gonna be able to really learn a lot from this first event and really see how people are using it. And I think, just like anything, I think we just need to be nimble. I think we need to be able to look at things and say what's working, what's not. We have a responsibility to the businesses, and we have a responsibility to the greater businesses too, who are excited about having the farmers market to draw more people down to their business. And so it's gonna be, how do we strike a balance between the two? But it's, you know, we can only guess what the issues are gonna be now, and that's what we tried to do with the planning, but we're gonna see exactly what the issues are after Wednesday.
Right. So.
So what are the ways that we're gonna monitor? I mean, I mean,
Physically
so
watch
physically.
it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And we're gonna, I mean, you know, we're gonna be talking with, you know, Jeff from the chamber, and I mean, these are people that are gonna be there the entire stretch of the event, to, you know, to make sure that they're watching for this stuff too. And we'll have a debrief after the after the event that first day and then talk about those things that worked and didn't work. And, I mean, the great thing is, I mean, it's right here, so we can just come out and we can see exactly how it's impacting it. And our employees are never afraid to tell us either. I mean, they're, you know, they know that if they have a problem with something, they know they can come and just tell me. And so I rely just as much on their feedback in that as anybody.
All right, anyone else?
We'll report back on it then. You know, we'll talk and maybe an email or something like that after the event to let you guys know how it went and what we saw.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Like I said, Ken that I talked to just was unable to get here, and I just wanted to make sure that we brought it up and had, you know, I told him that nothing, you know, week one's happening, and, but I just wanted to make sure that we all had the opportunity to voice in and hear their concerns, and so, all right.
I think the other thing too is that like a lot of the marketing and stuff's already done for like, you know, in terms of the mass.
Well,
market
and that's
for
what I
summer.
mean, that's kind of what I said, everything has been, you know, all signs hanging over City Hall, or over 41 saying it's City Hall Plaza, but that doesn't mean, like you said, we can't tweak something, you know, and still keep it in, but like I said, until we see it once and really know how it happens, you know, sometimes the fear of the unknown is the biggest problem that there is, and obviously there is times that we have to be concerned, but I think let's, at this point now, with it just being on Wednesday, I mean, I first got the phone call about this on Friday, and I was quite surprised that, and I told him that I was really surprised that he didn't hear or know that. There's a big banner hanging over 41, and he drives every day, and just, but apparently someone else in the office talked, and then it never went nowhere. And now they got an email saying, get your car out of there by noon on Wednesday. It was like, so sparked a concern, so. But as long as I trust that you guys will keep monitoring it and have that debrief after and figure out.
I mean, because there might
Figure out if there's a way.
there might be some issues we run into are just untenable for the businesses, and we got to address that, so.
Right. Okay. All right, anyone else have any comments or whatever? Otherwise, I'm gonna move forward. Okay. All right, is there anyone else here that wants to speak at visitor presentation? Movement, so I will go ahead, take that as a no, and we will move forward. Next, we'll move on to item 6, which is approving the previous meeting minutes. Again, if there are no corrections or additions, I would entertain a motion to accept.
So moved.
Motion by
Hubbard.
Knew I got, just trying to get that. I thought I had it.
Like old Mother Hubbard.
I'm not saying that. I have a motion by Hubbard, second by Hatfield. So, discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Moves us on to item 7, consent items. For anyone who doesn't know, consent items are items that need approval but not necessarily having a conversation. But at any point, anyone can be discussed and talked about. So with that, is there any discussion regarding consent?
I would just like some education. This is probably the first time in some consent that I'm a little bit murky on what it actually is.
Okay.
When I look at it, and so kind of looking at just a little bit more conversation on interfund transfers.
Yeah.
And we'll start with that. I mean, interfund transfers, interconnection process, and the other one that jumped out to me that I just wanted to make sure I have a clear understanding was the approval of the cogeneration and small production tariff.
Yep. Well, those are very confusing ones. So, first one I'll deal with, the interfund transfers. So basically, so we keep track of projects as they move along, and especially when we go through and we actually finance projects, you know, a lot of times what happens is we'll, you know, especially in a developing city, we have projects that go on all year. But what ends up happening is you know, a lot of them are projects that we're gonna finance for, so we're gonna go out and we're gonna sell bonds for them. Well, you don't wanna go to the market too often in the year. And so a lot of times what we'll do is we'll take cash for the temporary from funds that have available cash to be able to deal with the upfront cost. We actually do what's called a reimbursement resolution that basically authorizes us to be able to go out and sell bonds to reimburse ourselves with those bond proceeds to put in place. And so a lot of times when you're seeing these things, they're actually transfers that are occurring either to basically they're going to be bonded for in the future, or in a case like you see things with like water trunk fund, sewer trunk fund, it says debt service. We put the debt service into a separate fund from the actual water or sewer fund, and so it's actually making transfers from, like the water fund, if it's supporting a new water service that's going in, there's an annual payment for the debt service that will actually come from the water fund that gets transferred into this debt service fund to actually pay that. So it's basically, you know, we tend to do it, you know, once a year to basically sort of go through and deal with all those. And it tends to be right around the time that the auditor is going through and actually doing our annual audit. You'll see them actually coming back, I think it's like the second meeting in August, to look at the 2018 year. So they work through with our financial staff to say, okay, what things haven't we made transfers for? Make them now so that their final review of the actual financials for 18 is reflecting everything in its right place. Is that it?
It does.
Okay. Second one is, and these all go together. So you talk about tariffs and you talk about distributive interconnection process and all that. So basically, as an electric utility, one of the things that you'll see happen, and it's happening more often now, is that you'll see companies that might have generation, or you'll see a house that might have solar panels. And one of the things that they do is they interconnect into our system. So they're selling their power. They're using it when it's most economically advantageous for them, and they're selling it when the prices are high. And so to do that, to put all that electricity out on the grid, they need to interconnect into our system to do that. And so the tariffs and the interconnection agreement and everything is basically laying out the rules that they have to play by when they go into our system. So for instance, you wouldn't want to have somebody putting in a homemade thingamajig to connect into our system, which could, you know, destroy our distribution system. You need to have some controls to define what is it that we're going to pay for, what they're going to get for rates when they sell back, and what are the physical restrictions that they have for actually connecting into it. It's actually a requirement that our agency puts on us from each of the communities to make sure we have these rules in place. And so all of the communities in MMPA are basically going through the same process of creating these rules to make sure that as people do this, we make sure that they're not just doing it haphazardly.
Okay, perfect. That's what I needed to know. I was just.
Okay.
Is this new or are we refining them?
Well, we've always been doing it, but it's becoming a lot more common than it used to. And especially as people are becoming a lot more conscientious about where their electric is coming from. This is basically refining it based on what we're seeing. Now, it may be in the future that things change. I mean, there might be other type of technology that this doesn't address that we'd have to come back and revisit it. But based on what we see now, this addresses the types of situations that are most common.
So if I have solar panels on my roof and I want to sell that, who has to pay for that from the house to our system? That's not our responsibility, is it?
No, they have to actually physically pay for the interconnection with our system, and they also have to enter into an interconnection agreement with us to do that. So it lays out who's responsible for what, you know, now and in the future, and then what kind of maintenance that they're required to do on their system.
Okay.
And if they don't meet that, then we can actually take them off of our system.
And then when they have the excess, then we're actually paying them money or reducing their utility bill, or however we do that?
Yeah, so basically it nets out on their utility bill. Yep.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? I just have one, and I'm not sure either you can do it, but didn't we approve I at the last meeting? I remember talking about the weenie wagon,
Yeah, that's so too.
and I'm just wondering, is that a mistake, or is this another one?
I think this is
thought it was
another,
another
I
one.
understood this is another one.
Yeah, I think this is another place
Yep,
that
this
there's.
is-
Oh,
Yeah.
'cause
Yep.
it almost seems like the exact same wording, that's why.
So the transient permit is good for one
location.
location. So the weenie wagon, I
Oh.
think was at, I don't remember where they were at, where that.
I think it was Shram.
Yep.
I didn't
So they
look
now
at
have
this
a
one.
permit to serve at Shram for the course of this year.
That,
This one
one's
is for
for
Lions
Lions.
Park. Yep.
Got it, okay. All right, thank you, I clarified that. Anyone else? Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent.
So moved?
Motion by Councilmember Wang,
Second?
second by Councilmember Gra to, boy, why can't I remember anybody's name tonight? Whew. To approve consent. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Moves us into item 8. And our first one is a public hearing. It's just adopt resolution 2019-83 authorizing the release of the 2040 comp plan to the Met Council.
Mayor and Councilmember, the item in front of you tonight has to do with a requirement that we actually have from the state of Minnesota and the Met Council is that every 10 years, each city needs to go through a comprehensive planning process. And basically, it's a process of updating basically your master plan for your community and basically identifying what future land use options exist within the city for undeveloped properties or ones that may be redeveloped in the future, what their options for that land use is, and basically lays out the policies for that. There's a very defined process in state statute for going through a comprehensive planning process, and we've been doing this for months. I know, probably when you were on the planning commission, you were dealing with this, the comprehensive plan. So we're getting closer to the end of the process. And one of the things that we have to do is we actually have to get approval from the council to actually submit it to the Met Council. And once it actually gets submitted, then they can come back and tell us you're either right or wrong in certain areas, and then we have to be able to go and address those. So I'll turn it over to Liz, but that's the gist of the process.
And really, I didn't have anything more to add to this because
well, there you go.
it's a pretty, thank you. It's a pretty straightforward
Best report
request.
she's ever given.
I know, right?
But it
feels
is a
pretty
public
good.
hearing. We have to be able to take
Right.
No, I
comment
know
from
that.
people. Yep.
Yep, so this is just the next step in the process is we have to authorize that submittal to the Met Council and hold a public hearing. So unless you guys have questions, that's pretty much the gist of it.
Because this is really what sets how we move in the future,
Right.
And then I'm sure you've heard about amending the comp plan if land usage changes and that's why we didn't get real involved with it this year because we made major changes after we got the interchange approval. Because that would have been a huge change of our comp plan, but we already did that as an amendment to the 2030. So our 2040 really,
It didn't change a whole lot from our 2030, with the exception of one thing. We went through a much more in-depth process with our parks and trails this time. And so we went through that with the park board. I'm not sure if you were still on when we were doing it, but we went through that with the park board, went through that internally with staff, and we had some public feedback and everything that went into it. But it was really meant to take a much more robust look at our parks and trail system going into the future so that as projects happen, for instance, there's, like missing trail segment between the community center and Brandondale on Engler. And so, we need to be able to identify that in the comprehensive plan, so when the county comes through and rebuilds that road, that we're making sure that we're reserving right-of-way to be able to do that trail project. So it's those types of things, it's basically sort of setting the vision for the future and making sure that we have already thought of a plan so that when things happen, we know how to respond to it.
Any further discussion? Like I said, this is just a step. The Met Council really takes a look at it and says if we're out of whack or not. And then we have to come back and figure out how to fix it, right? Does that happen often? I don't know. This is my.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, that didn't take long.
Yeah, they'll come back,
It was in stereo.
they'll come back with comments, I guarantee it. Yeah.
It's just how impactful those comments are. There's things in here, they've changed names of a trail and they'll send us back, oh, that isn't the name of that trail anymore. You have to change your plan to say it's the Southwest Light Rail and blah, blah, you know.
Oh,
It-
okay.
They give us exhaustive lists of things. Hopefully, none of them are substantial.
But here's an example of what can be substantial. So, for instance, I don't know if anybody's heard, Lake Elmo for years had issues where they were fighting the Met Council and went through lawsuits and everything. But basically, the issue there is that the Met Council extends sewer into areas they're meant to develop. And Lake Elmo had that sewer coming into there, and as part of having that sewer service, there's a cost. And if development doesn't occur to be able to share that cost amongst the Twin Cities, it becomes a higher cost for everybody within the system. Well, for years, Lake Elmo actually fought the process of development, and they're like, we're not going to do any development. And ended up being a lawsuit that they went through, and basically the Met Council won. And they were, basically told by a court, you can't make a comprehensive plan that doesn't support the development of the Twin Cities. And so these comp plans have very impactful, now, that's never been an issue in Chaska because, some of the things are like affordability goals. And so, making sure that there's the Met Council has standards that they want to see the cities meet for affordability goals. We just got our rating back from the Met Council this year, and we were 100% on our affordability. That's not the case with every city, and so a lot of times you'll see comments come back that say you don't have enough density to support affordability in your community. You need to increase your density. You can't just serve, 2 houses per. I don't know. Acre. I'm probably making up numbers here, but yeah, okay. But you can't have too low of a density because it's not going to support the sewer service we had, and it's not going to support our goals of affordability through the Met Council. So there are some very substantial comments that can come back. I don't expect it on this one because we went through such an intensive process with our Southwest Chaska and our future development area that I think a lot of those issues really got addressed when we went through that planning process.
Question. So if residents are, raise issues or raise things that they'd like to see on the comp plan, is there still time that's through this phase to get that in?
Yeah, generally speaking, there is, but, once we submit it, it gets harder and harder, because then you restart processes at the Met Council, which are time-consumptive processes, and at some point, you're like, it just has to wait,
And that's what the amendment process is for. We do see every once in a while a comp plan amendment come through,
Right.
and it's basically the questions that have to be asked is it in the best interest of the community to do that? And if you can make that argument to the Met Council, sometimes you do have comp plan amendments, and so that can be something that can come through. But this has been out for quite a while, and we even had a 60-day period that got sent out to
6 month.
6-month process that got sent out to surrounding jurisdictions to be able to get comments back from them too. So this has been out there a long time.
Okay. All right, anyone else? Questions up here? I said, I think this,
It
sorry.
was delightful reading. I
Yes.
read the comp plan. No, it was very interesting to see the graphs and charts. It'd be nice to see them side by side on there, but that was my screenshotting.
Oh, yeah.
I just had one question in regards to the existing land use that was, when Launch Ministry wants the proposed complex, I know they talked about how it was designated I believe it was commercial.
So right now it's residential. This new comp plan would allow for mixed use, which,
So it did get changed.
yes.
'Cause it
Well,
was hard to
it will get changed.
It will.
It
Okay,
isn't
but
changed
it's,
yet.
but it's proposed in
Yep.
here. Okay, that was my
Yep.
one question, I think,
Yep.
because it was hard to see on the map exactly.
And that's
It's kinda
the,
small.
that's the challenge with their project from a timing perspective is that, this process, it's probably the October, November timeframe that we actually have this come back to the city council for consideration. You know, it takes just as long to go through a comp plan amendment process with the Met Council, so it's not like this is adding any length to their timing, but it still takes the Met Council a ways, because there's 100 cities and only 20 of them have been approved?
Yeah, it's a very small.
And they have a pretty limited staff to be able to go through this there, so it takes them a while to get through these.
So if they come back and we're required to make changes, is that considered a comp plan amendment, or is
No,
that just a correction?
Because nothing's been officially changed yet.
So then it comes back here, we figure out whatever those changes are. Do we get right back in the queue, or does it fall back to the bottom?
If it's not substantial, we can get right back in the queue. If it's something that requires us to come back and have a discussion about it, that's a different story.
Okay. 'Cause that's what I wondered about, you know, the changes, and then you fall to the bottom of the queue.
Right.
and then-
You
Yeah.
want to manage and hopefully just minor tweaks and omissions and errors along the way, because they might have a new policy that we didn't address properly, or something that isn't that hard from a regional perspective or has no implication on a local side, or they change names, or all kinds of other instances that they want some additional data shown differently. But generally speaking, it's relatively minor changes, but as Matt said, occasionally a city can get hit with a big change that might make you rethink about, do we need to even re-engage the public on the
Yeah.
comment or something? And
Yes.
and so hopefully, the process has been thorough enough that we avoid all of that.
I don't anticipate that with ours, but there are some cities that happens to.
Right.
Okay, Good, good. You've been through enough of those, so you kind of know.
I was gonna say, these are 10-year plans, and how many comp plans have you done in your career now?
3.
Okay.
It's extremely thorough, I don't know, it's very thorough.
Last time.
I wouldn't
Not to
want to
point
be,
that
I
out,
wouldn't want to be the person that does the very, very first one.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, I suppose.
At least now you can just kind of work off what you.
There's some strategy to this.
There's no advantage to going first.
Yeah. Wait till they get down to that, where they gotta get them done, and then they kind of look through them faster, is that what you're saying?
Not at all.
How about them twins? All right. All right, if there are no more questions up here, again, this is a public hearing, so I do need to open it up. So I see no one saying anything. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and I'll open the public hearing at 7:38. And is there anyone that would like to speak regarding our 2040 comp plan? Last call. All right, we'll move forward and we'll go ahead and close that public hearing at 7:39. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2019-83.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hatfield, second by Councilmember Lang to, again, adopt resolution 2019-83, authorizing the release of our 2040 comp plan to the Met Council. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. Motion carries. Moves on to 8B, adopt resolution 2019-84 and ordinance 966 approving a preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plot and approving rezoning for the S-Lot Ernst House redevelopment.
Mayor and Councilmember, this is an item coming back to you from the Planning Commission recommending approval. This is the redevelopment of the Ernst House, the house that was moved from Fireman's Park down to Hickory Street, along with the S House lot that's to the north of that. This is one that the council did see the concept plan come forward a few months ago. And we've been working as a city, because we own the property, to actively seek reuse of the Ernst House to preserve that, and then redevelopment of that site to the north that's vacant right now. So I'll turn it over to Liz and she can go through the details.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, members of the council. Mr. Mayor, we have a preliminary site and building plan preliminary plat and rezoning requests tonight for the S-Lot and Ernst Home. So the sites are located on this aerial with the arrows pointing to them. So the Ernst Home is more so on the southern side of the site, and then the vacant S-Lot is on the northern side, right off of Walnut Street here in downtown. So like Matt said, we did get our concept plan approved back in December of 2018. So this is the second step in the process to get their approvals. And then the HPC also did review this as well, since it encompassed a locally historic resource within it. So they did provide approvals back in April of this year. So again, preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat to redevelop the S-Lot and restore the Ernst Home. So specifically, they're requesting to put 7 rental apartment units on this site, which would be composed of 3 different buildings. So the Ernst Home would encompass 2 dwelling units within it, one on the first floor and one on the second floor. And then a new townhome building will be proposed north of the Ernst Home, which would have 3 dwelling units in it. And then a parking garage, also known as the carriage house, would have 2 units above the parking stalls. And then that piece would be oriented more on the west side or rear of this site. And then secondly, they're asking for a rezoning tonight to planned residential district, specifically PRD 74, which is more applicable to this site overall. So as it exists today, the Ernst Home is on this site. In total, the site is about 0.4 acres in size. It backs up to the alleyway, which will be the primary point of access into the site for vehicles, with the buildings and front entrances more so oriented to Walnut Street. And then this is the site plan that they have proposed. So the Ernst Home is denoted in kind of the blue coloring on this drawing. And then we have the townhome building just to the north of that, which will have 3 of those units, which will be multi-level units, providing basements, first level and second level to those units, which will all gain access from the sidewalk facing Walnut Street. And then we have the carriage home just in the rear of both of those buildings, which would provide an interior parking stall for each of the units, and then 2 dwelling units above that, which both of those accesses are on the side of the carriage home. So the access into the site will be from the alleyway for vehicles. So the access point is shown on the south side here to access 6 additional surface parking stalls. So in total, there's going to be 13 parking stalls for this site, which we've are determined as adequate for the amount of units for this site. And again, each unit will have their own parking garage stall as well. One of the items brought up during the concept plan was this idea of the Paseo edge. In our downtown master plan, the alleyway was called out as a Paseo opportunity. That would basically be a pedestrian refuge from the Highway 41 side of things and provide more of a pedestrian-oriented area for people to basically dissect the block and get from north to south within that area. So during the concept plan, we wanted to make sure that the west side of this site was adequately addressing that edge in terms of providing landscaping and more of kind of a buffer in between the parking lot and that Paseo. Although we don't have very specific design details for that Paseo yet, we still wanted them to address their edge appropriately on the west side. So they have included some plantings and landscaping along this edge, as well as a decorative aluminum fence to line that up.
Is
So
that going to
again,
have any issues? That looks really close to the alleyway. Is that going to have any issues with snow removal and things like that, that being so close?
Well, they have denoted the south area of the site to be the snow storage area.
I meant just cleaning the alley, not the personal.
In terms of kind of the maintenance area, I mean,
We haul down here.
right.
Well, I understand it, but initially you still have to go through there.
Yeah.
And I just, I mean, it looks like it's right on top of the alley. That's why, I mean, as long as from a maintenance perspective, we're all right. I just don't want to see us running into the fence because it's so tight. And then we're fixing, you know, I think you said it's an ornamental fence, right?
Right.
And that's the only thing that I'm concerned about, is that, so.
Sure.
If we're good with that, all right. But
Nope, and that's a valid concern and something we can definitely look into a little bit further as we get to the final, so. In terms of the overall design, so the Ernst home is going to stay relatively the same as it is today out there. So some minor maintenance things are going to be done to the building, such as repairing the roof and the front porch area and doing tuck pointing where needed. The only added piece they're adding is on the rear or west side of the building. They will provide an exterior staircase, which will provide access to the dwelling unit on the second level.
does the HPC have to touch this?
Yes, and they have, so they did.
Oh, they're-
They have seen all of this, so they did provide their approval on that in April. Oops.
I'm sorry, anybody listening, HPC is the Heritage Preservation Committee.
Yes.
Throw that stuff out there. I don't like that, but sometimes it happens.
This is the floor plan for the townhome buildings. I'm just showing the first and the second floors as a part of this. But that'll be the multi-level units proposed there. The exteriors, in terms of scale, will be pretty similar to the Ernst home. They'll kind of mimic that gabled front that you see on the Ernst home, and then the front porch feature as well, which is more kind of recessed into the building, but still provides that same similar function that's on the Ernst home. And then the main building materials proposed is brick on the first level, which will be that same brick blend that you see on the curling center to bring in those Chaska features and colors into the building. And then the second floor will be composed of LP Smart Side lap siding, which will be white, which attributes back to kind of the accent colors that you see on the Ernst home. And then, which will kind of transition into the carriage home as well in terms of the colors. So the carriage home, again, has the parking stalls on the first floor, and then you will access both of the dwelling units from grade, from a staircase up into the second floor for each of those units. And then the carriage house, since it's seen as more of an ancillary structure on the site, the architect wanted to make sure that the materials kind of reinforce that characteristic. So this building will be made primarily of LP Smart Side, using both the lap siding application and board and batten to provide a little bit more interest and articulation on this building. There's also some protrusions in the massing as well to provide additional interest. But this will be all white, and then the garage doors will be decorative and have kind of that pop of color that you'll see more so on the western edge. And then they've included a couple renderings just to give you that visual understanding of kind of different views of the site. So the top one is kind of in between the buildings, so each of these units will have their own private areas, with the exception of the carriage home units, but all of them will have kind of their own designated private area outside for patio space. And then here's a rendering from the Walnut Street side, looking at the front of the townhome and the Ernst home together. A view from the alleyway, looking at the carriage house, and so on. And then another part of the request tonight is for preliminary plat. So right now, both of the sites are composed of two different lots, the Ernst home having one, and then the former S home having its own separate lot. So they are, as a part of this, combining that into one lot. And one of the corrections that will come out of that pre-plat is moving this lot line on the south side, which is currently in the city's parking lot, to be more in line with their site. So that'll, with the plat, it'll help correct some encroachment areas.
Which line are we moving? I'm confused.
So this bold line right here is the current lot line of the Ernst site.
Okay,
So when we plat this, lot 1 will essentially be.
red line.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Just all one lot.
All right.
And then the parking lot will
My
be one
maps
lot.
like that didn't come up in my electronics, so I'm
Oh,
just seeing
okay.
this stuff. Sorry.
Sorry about that. So in conclusion, based on where they're at now in this preliminary, they have been able to address some of the comments brought up during the concept plan. We are asking you to make 2 different motions tonight. One of them to adopt resolution number 2019-83, I believe, approving the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat.
84.
Is it 84? I always do this. I always put the PC number in there, so I apologize. So resolution number 2019-84, which is approving the preliminary site and building plan and preliminary plat for 7 apartment units on the S lot and Ernst home, subject to the conditions that are listed within that. And then you're also making a motion for the rezoning, which is to adopt ordinance number 966, approving the rezoning from the C3 zoning district to the PRD 74 zoning district.
What is C3?
It's our downtown commercial district.
Oh, even though that was residential,
Right.
it was slated
Yeah,
commercial?
there was there's a provision in the code that allows for residential on Walnut Street and all that. And
Right.
so this really kind of adjusts that further to clarify exactly what's happening on the
Right.
site.
Okay. All right. And then, so the Ernst, where the Ernst house is, and the S lot then will be one lot?
Correct.
And then our parking lot will be the other lot?
Yes,
correct? Okay.
yep.
Okay. Anyone else?
So as
Yeah.
far as management, they'll all be property managed by, all 7 will be included, not one house, not, they're all kind of included under the same umbrella?
Yep.
Property manager?
Yep. Same management group for all of it. Yep.
What else? You're thinking, there's smoke coming out of your ears. What's going on? No, nothing, all right. I'm excited. I think that this looks nice and will blend in. I've been kind of frustrated that we haven't had anything done on that house since we moved it. And I'm excited to see this happen. I think it's, for what all of the things that happened since we moved that house, I think that this is it looks like a really good plan. It gives us more households down in the district, walkability to a lot of things. So
It gives us a mechanism to recapture a lot of the costs that we
Right.
had for moving the house to begin with.
yeah,
So,
so, all right,
Thank you.
thank you.
hey, as Liz goes back, one of the things I wanted to mention is, so the top standard that you can get in planning is to be AICP certified. So it's American Institute of Certified Planners. And Liz just went through and actually just passed her test to be certified, so AICP certified. So that's a huge thing in the planning world, so just a congratulations to her. So.
Now let's learn to fix those mistakes you made.
Apparently,
Just like that, you're at the
After
top
that,
and you're
right?
brought right back down.
apparently they didn't have that course.
Well, congratulations, Liz.
Congratulations.
All right, so we need to do 2 motions if, and I'm hearing that there are no more conversations, correct? All right, so I'll start it. I would entertain a motion from someone to adopt resolution 2019-84, which is the preliminary site and building and primary plot for the Ernst and S lots.
So I'll go ahead and put forward the motion to adopt resolution 2019-84 for preliminary site and building plan for summer apartment units on the S lot in Ernst Home for 2019-13.
So I have a motion from Councilmember Wang,
Second?
second by Councilmember McGraw to, again, adopt resolution 2019-84. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same side. Motion carries. Now I'd be looking for adoption of ordinance 966, which would be rezoning of the S lot in the Ernst House development.
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 966 approving the rezoning of Lot 1, Block 1 Ernst Home Apartments.
Motion by Councilmember Hubbard,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hatfield to adopt ordinance 966. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Pose same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. All right, we move to item number 8C, adopt resolution 2019-85, approving a conditional use permit amendment to Bavaria Downs.
Mayor and Councilmember, this is an item coming back from the Planning Commission recommending approval of a CUP that would allow for a large gravel parking lot at Bavaria Downs to add on to their parking for events there. So Liz can
Thank you, Matt.
explain this.
Thank you, members of the council, and Mr. Mayor. We've got a conditional use permit amendment request tonight for Bavaria Downs, which is located at 3919 Bavaria Road. So to give you an understanding of kind of where the subject area that they're requesting tonight is basically shown in the orange box on this aerial of the property. So this is kind of more zoomed in to the overall property since it is quite large. But they are proposing to add a gravel parking lot in the area denoted in the orange box, which is closer to their house venue. Currently, there's a couple barn structures just westerly of this area, and their initial parking stalls or parking lot was just south of that.
Liz, maybe you could point out generally where Bavaria Road would be on there.
Yep, Bavaria Road is in this direction, so again, it is quite cut off here. But the house venue is pretty much set pretty central inside of the parcel here, and then there's a long private driveway that provides access to that venue space, and then also provides access to the current parking lot that's just south of those barn buildings. So again, their request tonight is to locate a parking lot area that's much closer to their house venue. So it was back in 2017 when they first got their approvals for their conditional use permit on the property, as well as their other site plan approvals. So they have, since that time, been in operation for about a year for hosting events and weddings and so forth at that house venue. And with the house venue, they've been utilizing a valet service to basically shuttle vehicles from the current parking lot that are closer to the barn buildings over to the house venue. And with that, they've been experiencing some challenges with that type of service, which all have to do with being able to service the entirety of the event, having people waiting for the valet services. There's some people that choose not to wait, so they're walking down this long, narrow driveway at night with no lighting. So they're definitely seeing some safety concerns with the valet service and the patrons who are utilizing the house venue. So they saw a concern there and they wanted to address it, and that's why they're here before us tonight with a new parking lot area. And really, ultimately, once they do get the barn structures up and running to be the second venue space, it would be their preference to have two separate parking lots for both the house venue and the barn structures. So with that, they are asking for an amendment to their original CUP or conditional use permit to allow for an additional gravel parking lot that would be much nearer to the house venue. So here's the site plan of the layout of the gravel parking lot in relation to the house. So again, it's just kind of northwest of the house structure. The access into the parking lot will be gained from that existing private driveway into the site. And that will provide access to 170 stalls. And this number was based on basically their capacity at this venue, plus providing for vendors and employees and overall attendees. So they feel that this number that they're proposing out there is more than adequate for serving just this venue. So in terms of locating a potential area for this new parking lot, they landed on this area due to the fact that it is flatter compared to other areas of the site. It's the most open in terms of the treed area. So they will still be impacting some trees out there, but in terms of what they're impacting, it's not much more significant to other areas within that treed area. They also wanted that natural screening in place so that it's not wide open to adjacent parcels or properties. And then they also wanted to choose a location that was convenient and practical for people attending the events at the house venue and gaining access to the front entrance, which is oriented on this western side. So they feel that this location is the best in terms of meeting all that criteria. And as staff, we feel that they have selected the most appropriate and adequate location for this gravel parking lot as well. We did note an area for additional screening on the eastern side, closest to the ponding area, which they have provided a planting plan in between the Planning Commission and City Council to be approved with tonight that we find sufficient. So when we go through a conditional use permit request, there is a list of criteria that needs to be met. I'm not going to go through all of these, but they do meet all of that criteria based on the zoning out there. They're still maintaining the spatial relationships that you see out there today from other residences. The parking lot itself is going to be naturally screened and pretty invisible to the naked eye from other adjacent properties. So with that, and the fact that this will offer a much more safe option for their attendees at the venue. It won't allow them to walk down a dark and narrow driveway. It'll allow them to get to their cars faster and easier and allow them to completely eliminate their valet service altogether. So with that, the criteria that's set forth is being met with the conditional use permit. So we are asking you to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2019, there I did it again. 85, approving the conditional use permit amendment to allow an additional gravel parking lot at 3919 Bavaria Road, based on the conditions within that. Huh?
Do I get part of your diploma?
Yeah, you get part of the certification.
So I'm happy to answer any questions, otherwise the applicant is here as well.
You know, he sits in the back and he's so quiet.
He doesn't want any questions.
I know. He doesn't want it. To me, this is just a no-brainer. It's not that big a deal. They certainly have the space, without any doubt, and they're not gonna destroy any more trees than they need to. They want the screening. I really wondered why it took you so long to do it, but that's just me. Because I figured that other one wasn't gonna, it's so hard because everybody leaves at the same time and try to get enough valet service. That had to be a challenge, so.
I guess the only comment, this meeting started.
You have to come up here, the others we can't hear you. Just state your name and address, please.
Tim George, 9674 Wellington Court, Woodbury, Minnesota, about an hour away. But the meeting started with events and parking and the challenges there. So, you know, we realized that having gone through that, and this just made the most sense based after a year of running it, so.
Yeah, being in the events business, venues, having parking is huge, so, good.
And
No-brainer.
The only thing, I just assumed that this was an auxiliary and you still had to use that one, but just what is that ballroom? 300 plus, right?
Yep, up to 400.
And 170 is all you need, huh?
Yeah, it's about 30 to 40% of the guest count usually shows up in vehicles, so whether
Oh.
they ride share or Uber or
Hotel
limo
shuttle,
or
yep.
helicopter. No, helicopter.
Yeah, I think safety's important, because also keep in mind, it's an event, so individuals walking down that road. Now, the
Yep.
driver hopefully is not participating in any beverages, but there's probably some intoxication involved with that walk as well. So improving safety is always important. So, yeah, and I appreciate the detail you kind of went through with kind of what you've done there to keep it natural and kind of fit into meeting the criteria of the use permit, so appreciate that.
Thank you for your consideration.
When they had their grand opening out here, I had to leave early because my son had a cross-country meet. And so I experienced this, having to walk from the house up to the parking lot. It's not only long, it's also muddy. And
So you know.
yeah,
Imagine in heels, that would be hard.
yeah.
Exactly.
But he wasn't, oh,
Well, I'm not.
All right, if there are no more questions, I would look to entertain a motion to adopt resolution 2019-85, approving the conditional use permit for Bavaria Downs.
So moved.
Motion by Councilmember Hatfield.
Second?
Second by Councilmember Wag to approve resolution 2019-85, conditional use permit for Bavaria Downs, basically a new parking lot. Discussion. Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Have a safe trip back. Good luck. All right, moves us to item 8D. Adopt resolution 2019-86, approving concept plan for Shepherd of the Hill Twin Homes.
Mayor and Councilmember, this is an item coming back from the Planning Commission with recommendation of approval. This is the concept plan for the Shepherd of the Hills at the southeast corner of Highway 41 and Engler Boulevard. And they're the ones that have all that land that's sitting there at the corner, so a lot of land there. So one of the things that the church is looking at is working with some of the property that they don't see using into the future, and are working with the Habitat for Humanity to basically do 4 twin homes on 2 acres of site, or acres of the site there. So Liz is here to talk a little bit about the details of it.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you, members of the council, Mr. Mayor. Like Matt said, we have a concept plan for the Shepherd of the Hill Church site for 4 twin homes. So the site is highlighted in blue here. So as you can see, there's definitely a large open area on the southeast corner of the site that they're wanting to develop on. So Habitat for Humanity is the applicant tonight. They are a national nonprofit organization with a mission to provide everyone a decent place to live. They have done work here in Chaska, primarily in the Clover Ridge neighborhood. And then they've also conducted their own neighborhood meeting this year on February 26th for people to come and learn about the project itself. And it seemed like it went fairly well. One concern was raised with the overall drainage of the site, which will be something that they can start to address and take care of as they prepare for their preliminary submittal.
Would that require a retention pond? Something like that?
It's going to require some type of
Right on the edge?
stormwater
Yeah.
drainage.
It's on the edge, it's really dealing with some of the existing runoff and maybe redirecting it or something. It's gonna require something out there.
Right. Excuse me. So like I said, 4 twin homes are being proposed, which would total out at 8 total dwelling units. This site in particular is in our R1 zoning district, and twin homes or duplexes are allowed with a conditional use permit. So that would be the next step in the process that they would have to obtain. So their intention is not to rezone out there. They're going to meet all of the R1 zoning requirements in terms of duplexes, but they will have to get that CUP in order to have those twin homes on the site. This is an existing condition survey, just to show kind of the topography that's happening on this site. So if you've driven past it, you can see that it starts to slope down as you get towards the southeastern edge, and hence how their site plan has kind of shaped around that overall topography. So they are proposing a cul-de-sac, a public cul-de-sac off of Crest Drive, which comes down from Engler Boulevard to the north there, and then provides access into that public area, or public right-of-way. So the site itself is 2 acres in size, including the right-of-way there. They have denoted a couple areas where they would address stormwater drainage and ponding, and it's not showing on this one, but also on the south side of the site as well. So again, as they gear up for preliminary, we'll get more details and information and reports on kind of the overall stormwater calculations and how they're going to address that in the preliminary.
While we're on this photo, has there been any conversation about how that driveway comes out and shines lights right directly into that house? Have we looked at any of that? Has that homeowner really aware of the consequences of that at night?
What one are you referring to?
Well,
This one?
where the
or-
road goes out on the Crest
The yellow
Drive,
roof, brown
the
roof.
headlights are gonna shine right in that house with the brown roof.
Anyone leaving at night is gonna shine their headlights right at them.
Right.
I learned that firsthand when we built the building, and that became a ginormous issue, about bright lights shining in the homes. Now, I mean, there are ways around that, but I don't know if there's a way that I think that we should really look at how that driveway is positioned. Maybe if we shift that to the north a little bit, now it goes between the 2 houses. But I see that is a concern that homeowner probably never thought of.
Yeah, and we can definitely look into that more as we gear up for the preliminary.
I mean, I think that it's a fairly simple tweak, but I think that it's a necessary tweak.
I agree with that.
When we're buying that house, all new blinds. I know that well. Somebody is, not us.
Or trees and landscaping.
No, it doesn't do it because of winter time it's gone.
True. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we can definitely study that a
Okay.
little bit more as we prepare for preliminary.
Sorry, I broke your rhythm, but.
No, that's
I
okay.
needed to
No,
ask
we-
that, so I
we
didn't
need-
forget.
We need those comments, so thank you. So they are proposing 2 different type of units out here. They're essentially the same floor plan and layout. It's just what you see from the grade level that's a little bit different. So on the north side, which is the higher point of the site, they're proposing the 2-story above grade units, which will basically kind of sit within the land there. And this will be a slab on grade, so it'll essentially have no basement as a part of it. So the first floor will be the living area and provide additional living upstairs. And then on the south side of the site, or the lower area, they are proposing kind of the Rambler style, which will have a true basement to it, excavated into the ground, but you'll only see 1 story above grade from the street level. So they have provided a couple renderings as well to give you kind of a visual of how these look. So this will be looking west from Crest Drive and into the opening of that cul-de-sac, and then they've got a view looking south, basically from the church site, looking southerly, and then looking from the northwest, basically from Crest Drive and the adjacent residents to the south of this site. So based on the comments that we've received thus far, some of the things that they do need to work on is drainage and stormwater ponding for the area, and then they also need to obtain that CUP during their preliminary request. And then they'll also need to work on the headlight glare as well. So With that, at this concept level, and going into the preliminary, we feel that they have a good starting point at least, so we are asking to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2019-86, approving the concept plan for Shepherd of the Hill Twin Homes based on the conditions that are listed within that. Happy to answer any questions, otherwise the applicant is here as well.
I have some questions, but it might be steered more toward the applicant.
Okay.
So if whoever, they want to come up and,
Sure.
first, give us your name and address if you would, please, for our records.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Chad Dittman. I'm the project manager at Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity, which is located at 1954 University Avenue in St. Paul.
Okay. So I kind of understand Habitat for Humanity. So you will come in and build these buildings, correct?
Correct.
And then they are sold to individuals, but are they based on needs, incomes, or how are the people chosen for the houses?
Mr. Mayor, we do sell the houses. Typically, that is a fee simple transaction, as is common for most real estate transactions. In this case, we are partnering with the Carver County CDA Land Trust, so that becomes not quite a fee simple transaction. We have partnered on an application for Minnesota Housing Finance Agency funding for that. And Ms. Lano from the Land Trust is here and can speak more technically on the Land Trust side. But we will jointly market the properties to our pools of clients. So Habitat has an ongoing application, training, and underwriting process that people are continuously moving through. And once they're mortgage ready, they enter our pool of qualified applicants. When the houses are nearing the beginning of construction, we advertise those houses to that pool, and those families can then decide whether or not they're interested in any or none of those houses. When we have an interested family, and if they are the only one interested in that unit, they're matched to that house, and we proceed with the rest of their requirements, underwriting, and sell the house to them. If we have multiple families interested in the same unit, then there is a lottery system that's based on, well, it's simply random, except that if you live or work or go to school in the same zip code as the unit, then you get an additional ball in the lottery. There's a couple of factors like that that increase your odds of being matched to the house.
Okay, that was my next question. So local residents currently would have a little better opportunity to get that?
Correct.
No guarantees?
Correct.
Because I just look at this is a perfect opportunity to fill the needs that we have here locally, and I hear that consistently.
Yeah.
But if we build all these and they don't go to anybody locally, we didn't solve anything.
Correct, I hear you. And so part of our effort will be to market the units in Chaska up until we get to construction, and even during construction. This will be a multi-year process for us to build.
So here's another advantage they're gonna have in this. Is everybody familiar with what the land trust is? So basically the land trust, and that's actually run through the Carver County CDA, and actually it started at the city of Chaska, but it's basically to make the house, first of all, more affordable, but then permanently affordable. Because a lot of times what happens is you create this affordability, people come in and they gain all the equity from the property, and so then it isn't affordable anymore. So the land trust, what it does is the people still get equity, but it's just on the house. The land is actually owned by the Community Land Trust, which is a nonprofit, which basically has a lease. It's like a 99-year renewable lease. So so 200 years basically, to be able to control the land, and so they can have some control over keeping this permanently affordable. But the other advantage of having the land trust involved in this is getting directly to you is it's the Carver County Land Trust. So they're gonna be out actively trying to get people locally to be a part of this, to give them an option to be able, maybe if they're renting and can't afford a home, an option to be able to afford to get a home in town.
So, and based off of all of what Matt said, all of these, if I understand it right, looking at it, they're all 3-bedroom, correct?
They're all 4-bedroom.
4-bedroom. So doesn't that take a couple out of that needs 1 bedroom, or maybe 2? And now you have 4-bedroom, that you have, it's just more cost to them for space that they're not gonna use, or may not use? Or what it does then, it opens the door for multiple people living there, which is, I don't think that's what the real intent is, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
Well, practically speaking, yes. Habitat has always and continues to have a general trend towards serving larger families. We don't really serve couples. They tend to not qualify for the program. They have relatively higher incomes than they are qualifiable. And yeah, so our intent is to serve families.
But then again, then that scares me that we might not, I mean, I'm hearing that we have individuals and couples and smaller groups that are looking for homes.
So here's the thing to understand about the land trust, is the land trust has a portfolio of houses out there. And so they have some that are 2-bedroom, they have some that are 3-bedroom, some that are 4-bedroom. Well, these would be, I don't know if there's any that have 4 bedrooms right now. Yeah, so basically it expands the ability of helping multiple groups of people instead of, like when we first started out with the land trust, a lot of them were townhomes that had 2 bedrooms. And so we couldn't help families that had multiple people in the family because we didn't have enough bedrooms. And so then they added the 3-bedroom, and now with the 4-bedroom, it actually is a part of their market that they haven't been able to address yet.
Mr. Mayor, Brenda Lano with the Carver County CDA. One of the things that we do see with the land trust model is we have a lot of younger families that are just starting out, and maybe there's only one income earner, mom staying home with the children. When they're going into that permanently affordable 2-bedroom townhouse and they have 2 or 3 children, now they have nowhere else to move to, and they're really unable to grow their family as they choose. So this extra stock would allow us to serve those people. We wouldn't be just looking at large families going in. It might be a couple with 2 children that would get that 4-bedroom home, anticipating that their family may grow. So the bedroom size isn't like a subsidized rental unit where you have very strict rules and regulations on how many people have to be in that unit. So this would give us some flexibility.
Well, I've just heard, I mean, I've had so many people stand here and tell me how we need this housing.
Right.
I just want to make sure that if we're building this here in our city, that my hope is that the people around here that are in desperate need of it have the first shot of it. And that's really what I'm, if 4-bedroom, to me, 4 bedrooms seem excessive, but if that's what you think the stock is, I'm okay with that, and now that I understand it. But looking at it at home, I'm going, it just seems like they're bigger than need to be. And granted, I get how they lay out really nice in there, but I just want to make sure that it's handling all the people that have stood on that side and told me we need housing.
Internally, we keep our own wait list, and since we took over the land trust from Chaska in 2009, we haven't been able to add another home in Chaska. My wait list has most people on it have a preference of wanting to live in Chaska, because this is where they work, this is where their kids go to school, and they don't want to leave this community. So that will be a preference. We will go through our list and get them referred into the Habitat program.
If I could make one other comment on that. One thing also to point out is that, and a little bit tough to see here maybe, for Habitat, when we build a 3-bedroom house, most of those do have a full basement that we leave unfinished, and a lot of those do get finished out by the families later on with bedrooms as their families grow. And in these units, we just have the 2 levels. We don't have the 3rd unfinished level, so there's really no expansion space. So we wanted to kind of maximize the possibility of the units as they are, because they're not, can't be changed.
I have a question. Why the 2 different styles?
So as Ms. Hanson mentioned, the site slopes from the church and the parking lot down, to the southeast, and that's a pretty good grade change. I think that's like 15 or 16 feet. So they're essentially the same house. It's just that the first level is, I'll do it from your perspective, the first level is at grade.
Sure.
And the rest of the finished house is above grade.
Okay.
And on the other side of the cul-de-sac, the first level is at grade and the rest of it is below grade, but with a lookout. So rather than, if we put them at the same height on both sides of the cul-de-sac, we thought the south ones would just stick way out of the ground.
Okay.
When I was out there, that's what it seemed to me, is even though they're different, they would almost be level just because of the grade. So I'm no
and the
expert,
next-
but it looked to me
The
like
next
they
house
would
down
look
is
really.
Rambler.
The whole street
Yeah.
kind of steps down.
All right.
And that kind of leads into, I would just hope that we'd be mindful of that neighborhood and obviously the age of those homes. They're gonna look a little bit different, but that they wouldn't stick out like a sore thumb. That would just be my desire and hope, is that they would blend nicely, and I would assume that they would, but.
That's always the challenge when you have, I
Right.
mean, I think of like the Moore's property, when we had homes that were probably built in the 50s and 60s, and then you had homes that were built in the 2000s. That's always a difficult balance there.
That's about what you
Materials
have
have
there.
changed
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
architectural styles, yeah.
One of the other nice things about the plan that they've used is that these meet what Minnesota Housing calls their visitability standards. So they're accessible for handicapped individuals,
Nice.
which is something else we don't have a lot of in our stock. A lot of our stock is up in the Clover Ridge area, and it is all that two-story where the main level is strictly the kitchen and small bath and living room space. So this has.
And it's coming off a porch too, so you're having to go up 3 steps before you
I know.
actually get into
I
it.
know about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's another thing that's very nice. It'll really add to the portfolio.
So is there what about the maintenance? Is there like a homeowners association, or how does that work for all the upkeep?
Sure. So we are actually striving to not have a homeowners association. We find that small associations of 8 units or even up to 15 just don't function that well. And it's an added cost to the buyers or the owners at that point.
So how does it work if they're a shared building, right?
So they have, like any other twin home that's not in an association, there should be a shared wall agreement, which is a contract between the two owners that's recorded on the property, so if the owners change, it's still there. But they have to work together, contracts are about working together. So that will be a key part of our training for the families. Once they are selected or matched to the houses, is that, you're buying half of a house and you have to work with your partner family to maintain it.
One of the things I remember about Habitat was many years ago that Habitat had a requirement that participants needed to do participation within the build to have sweat equity as part of the agreement. Is that still the case, or how does that work?
That's still the case. It's a little scaled down now. We require what we call is 250 hours of sweat equity per family. A good chunk of that is now accounted for in the preparation for the mortgage. A lot of training and work to get up to mortgage readiness. And that's work. And, everybody has to do that, but our families maybe have to do a little bit more. And so we started to count that. And now we just have 100 hours on site doing, actual building stuff.
So then Habitat, will they build the road, bring all the sewer and water in and all that stuff then?
Yes, sir.
And then your money comes out of selling the homes back and the mortgage, that's how you stay functioning? Like I said, I don't know how the financial pieces of that work.
Well, it's complicated.
I'm sure it
There's a lot of
is.
sources. The first mortgages are one of the sources. We're projecting first mortgages of around $150,000. There'll be variation there depending on what their income is. It's based on their income and how big the family is and whatnot. And then we figure fair market value is going to be around $275,000. So we have a pretty substantial affordability gap. That's where the land trust comes in. We take the land out of that as of an affordability gap subsidy with MHFA money, and then we'll bring in additional Federal Home Loan Bank and private sponsorship and charitable giving to fill the rest of that gap. We might still have a development gap, which would be cost in excess of fair market value. and that's private money that we bring to the table. So we get paid out of the fundraising that we do, essentially.
Okay, so if this project moves forward, do you build a house, finish it, then move to the next one, build it, finish it? We're not gonna have, all 4 slabs built and then you just wait till something happens? Is that how you do that?
So right now, our plan is to hopefully break ground on the site work next spring and start construction of the first twin home in the summer of next year. Then we would start 2 additional twin homes, so a total of 4 units in 2021, and then finish the final building, or start the final building in
Okay.
2022.
So basically, you're building 1 or 2 at a time?
1 to 2
so
at a
that they're-
time, yeah.
They get done and finished and, okay.
Just a question in regards to the mortgage and things. Are the residents, do they pay the property taxes like any other citizen? And that's all part of
They
the,
do.
I'm assuming the, okay.
Like comments I'd have, first off, I do like the look of the front in particular. You know, I think a lot of, sometimes twin homes, you really see just garage. You know, I do like how they've kind of set them up and kind of provide some look. The only comment that I would comment, the back scares me a little bit because it's long. You know, you have, obviously I know it's a concept plan and a lot can change, but, because some of those, 2 of those houses, the back of the house will be very visible. In particular, the one that faces, the back faces Engler Boulevard there. So I would, you know, obviously cost is important when you're looking at this situation, but it is kind of something to think about because it's gonna look like a giant single building from the backside, and how can we make that look nice? Because like I said, it will be very visible, 2 of them in particular will be very visible from the backside of the house. There's no way to avoid that, but, so, yeah, as a concept plan, I like the look. Like I said, I do like the front, the fact that it isn't all garage, for some of them you do see all garage. Yeah, so I think it's a good use of that land.
We've heard that concern, and we understand it is just a concept plan, and we'll work on that, how to figure out how to break up those rear facades. We've heard the drainage question, and we got to resolve it. We just haven't dived into engineering on it yet. And then the headlight is a new one for us that will, this doesn't have, or yeah, it does. We'll look into that for sure. I did just note on a map that that condition exists everywhere. And I mean, this house is subject to that. There's
and I
about
understand
5
that, but when you
right
bring
there.
a new one in,
Yep, yep.
it changes everything, and that's the only thing that, I mean, it's always about being good neighbors, and if
Yeah.
there's a way that we can tweak that and not hit that, I wanna make sure that we look at it. And if we can't, I know that somewhere along the line, you're gonna have to work, because you're gonna hear it.
Yep.
I just, you know, because again, if it was one house, it's one thing, and the other thing, usually when they're like that, they're backing out, and it's not the headlights. So, I get it, but that's something that really caught my eye, because I've been there and done it, and I know what it means, and they said it wasn't gonna be a problem, and it turned out to be a big problem. So, and like I said, I don't even know, because that's kind of one of my next question. You know, a lot of times you have these meetings and 1 or 2 people show up. What kind of response did you have when you had your neighborhood meeting? Because all of a sudden, they see dozers in there moving dirt. Then we're getting phone calls, what's going on here? So I'm just curious, what kind of turnout you had of the neighbors there when you had your meeting?
It was my estimation that we had about 10 to 15 church members and 10 to 15 neighborhood residents. And I did go around and flyered myself much beyond the 350-foot radius, which really doesn't catch that many houses in this situation. So I think I left about 100 notices on people's doors.
But we did get what I'm really looking at is, did we really get the neighboring neighbors? And I see the pastors back there if you want to.
Yeah, I don't know if we got that neighbor. I just don't know.
Right, okay.
We had 3 immediate neighbors at the planning commission.
Okay, I was just gonna say, so, no.
All right.
Two
However,
to
they
the
were-
south
they
and
were to
one
the
was
south,
across.
Yeah, so it was still not that neighbor.
Okay.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dean Seal. I'm the pastor at Shepherd of the Hill. I was at that meeting and I held the microphone when we went around the room. There were about, what did we say, like 10 people from the neighborhood? And several of them came in kind of nervous. They were wondering what's going on. By the end of it, every question was answered. Nobody left nervous. I don't know if it was that guy across the street, but everyone who had a question, like the drainage thing, that drainage problem is there now. So we could actually be the ones who solve that problem. Everyone clearly got the idea that if they have any questions coming up, they can contact us and we can contact them, or they can contact Habitat directly. Can I say a couple other things?
Sure.
Our church has 17 missions. The first two are homeless families, and the second one is advocating for affordable housing. So in our process, we've learned about how much homeless stuff, you guys hear about this all the time. We need stuff for seniors, we need stuff for young adults. With Habitat, with families moving forward, we're trying to find housing for people with families. And, a family of 2 people, it's easier to find housing for, but a family with 2 parents and 3 kids, they stay homeless a long time. So these houses are made for families, and they might be existing families or they might grow. So this fits right into what our mission is. Somebody very optimistically bought a huge piece of land 20 years ago, expecting us to build a mega church. That never happened. So we've been mowing this thing for 40 years. We'd like to make it more productive. Habitat brings us the chance to create 8 units of affordable mortgages. And what we hear is that young people leave town because there's no place for them to move into, no place for them to buy. These are going to be permanently affordable. It'll be a successful method for future partnerships between Carver County CD and Habitat. So this could keep going in other locations. Also, the houses will be hammered together by a certain amount of volunteers. We have a Boy Scout troop in our church, and one of the guys in the troop says, our troop does Habitat nail pounding groups all the time, plus we're connected to groups like Delta and American Express that they've worked with on other Habitat locations. So I'm hoping we can build all 4 of them a little faster. But also you should know that the Presbytery, which is a group of 60 Presbyterian churches, maintains a kind of an oversight on any land transactions. We hold the land in trust for the Presbytery, and they have to approve this moving forward. And so they've gone through the due diligence of this, and they believed in it enough to cut the price by a significant amount, like over 10%, to say that we're going to be a partnership in this, to make it more affordable and more doable. So we're totally in favor of this, and it really fits in our mission.
Okay. Awesome, thank you.
I just have one more question, if that's all right.
Yep.
In regards to, so with it being in a trust for a very long time, the families that would get in initially, let's say in 3 or 5 years or whatever, they would want to leave. How does that process work with getting a new applicant, in there? You guys still work, would you work with if the house was sold?
Right, it remains in the land trust. When they want to sell, they contact us at the CDA. That's the first step. We have the first right of refusal on that property. Most often, we don't buy them back, but we will market them to our pool of buyers on our wait list. We also use a scoring matrix that's connections to community. Do you work in the community, have family in the community? Do you attend a school within the community? So we have all of those connections to community in that scoring matrix. And we use that in order to score the people to offer it to the next buyer. Most of the people that sell their land trust homes end up buying in the traditional market within the community. This kind of is the stepping stone that gets them ready to get into their next home. I'd say here in Chaska, and we started off with 18 homes in Chaska. Actually, we did add 1 through the neighborhood stabilization program, so there were 19 homes in Chaska in the land trust model. We probably only have 1, maybe 2 resales a year. Okay. That's it. and most stay within. They've got the full support of the CDA should they run into trouble with foreclosure issues. Maybe they've lost a job. How can we help them and stabilize and keep them in that home? The other thing that makes this unique with having that shared party wall agreement, because they do have the backing of the land trust and these will remain in the land trust, they will be working with us. One of the things that we do is work on your maintenance and your upkeep and those things. In all of the years now that we've had the CDA, had the land trust model at the CDA, which came in 2009, so it's been 10 years that I've been working with it. We've only had one home where we've had to make an investment, and that was a bank-owned property that we got back. We worked with the bank, and were able to keep it in the model, and the stairwell fell in. So it was a relatively inexpensive fix, and nobody was hurt, but that's the only home we've ever had to reinvest in. Most of the time, they've replaced carpet, they've replaced the appliances. You know, this is home ownership, and with that comes the pride in ownership. They're taking care of these, they're maintaining them. They know that the value of that home is tied to what its resale value is, based on that land trust model that we're using, where it's tied to the fee simple appraisals. So it's been a fantastic program here in Chaska, and we're really excited to get more homes in Chaska because it really is a community that a lot of people want to be in.
If someone starts to slip in their maintenance, do you guys go in and step in and start having conversations with them?
Yes.
So you are monitoring kind of.
Yeah, this is the huge benefit of having the land trust involved in this, is that you have sort of that other sort of safety net, you know, for lack of a better term. And I mean, you guys as a CDA have, you know, a couple thousand units, and so you guys have, you know, they have the experience of dealing with those maintenance issues. So it's, to me, that's what sort of elevates this project to make even more comfortable, because the CDA is going to be monitoring them.
And I know that we have these twin homes all over, but I don't know that I've been overly involved with personally some of them, but I've wondered about that, having the 2 units, and somebody wants theirs bright purple, and, you know, and stuff like that, but, so that's probably why I'm asking more questions than normal, is that it's here, it's in front of me.
That shared party wall agreement is very all-encompassing, so it will address things like that it can't be 2 different colors. It's got to be cohesive, all one color, because you share a common back. So those things are all addressed in there.
Okay. All right.
One last,
Go ahead.
one last question. So I noticed there was no landscape plan, because I know this is just a concept, but, you know, just could you share your thoughts in terms of what you're thinking about landscape?
You know, we just haven't thought about it that much, to be honest, yet.
Yeah, I was
Full
just-
compliance with the landscaping requirements of the city of Chaska.
I was just thinking, you know,
Good answer.
Yeah, that's a good answer. But I was just thinking, you know, one of the questions earlier, you know, with like some of the siding and to the angler side, even some trees along that edge would not be, you know, doesn't have to be a lot, just some trees kind of break up things a little, but it might not be a bad thing. Plant them now, and then when they grow in, they'll be there for a long time, so.
Yeah, that is one way of addressing my concern about how the back looks like, is you put some natural screening in there.
I think architecturally they can do something to break that up. I'm with you that, and the single little 2-foot wide deck kind of makes it look funny. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's,
We'll
sure
work with
Liz
them
is
as
all
they-
over that.
We'll work with them as they
Right.
proceed along.
exactly, exactly. All right, anything else? All right, thank you. Thank you. What's your thoughts?
I think it's, you know, a good add to the inventory of housing. You know, it's another affordable aspect, and it's another demographic. You have larger families, so we talked about, you know, couples, aging older adults. We talked about young people, so this is another group that's being helped and served. Yeah, I think the big concern I have is, you know, is really about the same thing you have, which is about that, you know, the approach from the houses right there. It's one of those things I know that people who don't usually think about that, but, you know, I kind of experienced it myself in our neighborhood with a similar kind of experience where, you know, the headlights became an issue, and we've just kind of seen that happen where, you know, at nighttime it's, you know, I think even if not the house right across the street, when people are making a left or a right turn out there, they're gonna swing around, and it's gonna be a lot more light on those, pointing those neighbors around there. So thinking through that somehow creatively, or just thinking through that a little bit would probably be helpful. Because, I mean, ultimately, the folks who are on that street didn't buy their homes expecting they'd be facing into a street. But, I mean, otherwise, I think it's a good ad. It's something that will be beneficial to the community.
I think it's very exciting. I like Habitat for Humanity. I think that's great. I live across the street from a lighted ball field. I can attest to lights being shined in my window, although that would not be the same case. So maybe there could be a creative solution. I think, you know, without being there, curiosity of where the land sits as to where the windows would be as far as like level and things, that might make a difference as far as whether or not that would make a difference or not, because maybe it wouldn't be a non-factor, but.
And we can have we'll have that analysis.
Like I say,
done
it's just
as part
something
of
just
it.
to look at. I mean,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't think it's anything they can't get around. Because there looks like there's two garages to the north there. If they shift that a little bit to the north, it'd probably be fine.
No, I'm excited. I think this is great.
Okay, anyone else? What's your thoughts? I'll make a motion. Do you not want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2019-86, approving the concept plan for the Shepherd Hill Town Twin Home Development.
So I have a motion by Councilmember Hubbard.
Second.
Councilmember Gra, again adopting resolution 2019-86, concept plan for Shepherd Hill Twin Homes. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. There you go. Thank you. Thank you for being there. And I didn't touch on this, and you guys can still, but for anybody at home, again, this is a concept plan. There's got to be a lot more touches before anything happens. There's not going to be equipment moving up there tomorrow to start digging anything for anyone that's at home. So this is the first step. This is their first step that they have to go through. Now they got to work out any of the conditions that are out there, the drainage, hopefully the headlights and landscape and all those things. That'll come back to us at a later date, and then we'll figure it out and move forward. So, all right, thank you. All right, that is the end of our agenda items. Moves us on to item number 9, bills. I'll put it out. Anyone have a question on a bill, Mike?
It's kind of funny you should ask.
Did I say that? Is that allowed?
So page 2, the item that's for all state sales and leasing corporation, what is the vacator jetter? Just wondering what that is.
That's the factor.
Vector jetter. So that's a
Sewer
piece of
jetter.
equipment that we have for our sewer department. It basically cleans out the sewer lines.
Okay.
The big shop vac.
It's a giant super.
Yeah, it's a big
sewer
shop vac on wheels.
It's like a shop vac on steroids, basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Page 6 and 16, there's 2 different items, but they're both the same thing. There's a condemnation commissioner, and I'm wondering what that actually is. And there's 2 different people, which is why they're in those
Yep.
2 different pages.
That's in relation to the County Road 44 interchange project. And so some of them opted to go through the commissioner process to determine the value of their property.
Oh, okay.
And so it's one that's, lack of a better term, it's friendly condemnation. Getting the title to the property wasn't an issue, it was determining value. So it's going through that process.
Okay, gotcha. So that was the cost of going through that, or the fee associated with that.
Yeah, so there's the legal fees, and then ultimately, it'll be the fee that, I believe the court makes us put on, they make us put in escrow the purchase agreement value of the property.
Well, to institute eminent domain, you have to have an appraisal. The city does the appraisal first.
Appraisal, I mean, yeah.
Right, and then gives the appraisal to the property owner. If they can't come to agreement on the price, then it goes to a condemnation commissioner, there's 3 commissioners. Each side puts in their evidence, and the 3 commissioners make a determination what they think based upon, they heard what the value is. And that's in hope to avoid clogging up the courts with all these things. And if they accept that commissioner's report, that's the end of it. If not, they appeal it and then comes to the court. So it's these commissioners get paid. And that's what that is.
Gotcha.
So do we know, did they accept these, or don't we know yet at this point?
We don't know yet. No.
And how come they get paid something different?
It's based on the size of the property.
So each property?
Yeah,
Okay,
so
gotcha.
each property owner, I mean, there's some that have a very small piece that's impacted, and there's some that have a very large piece that's impacted.
Okay, so this one, they're probably similar size. The one is $266, there's 272, so.
It's depending on basically the complexity of the issue.
Okay, so close but not exactly the same. Page 10, what's the software that we licensed from NBC Universal?
I always assumed community center. That was my assumption.
Oh, it's probably, I can find out for sure, but yeah, we do have, I want to check on that to make sure, but I'm assuming it has to do with our TVs up at the community center.
Because, I figure there's some things, but NBC Universal seems like an odd one, just by virtue of who they license to normally, so.
Since we're on page 10, can I ask about the Taekwondo?
Wondered that as well.
You interested?
Well, my husband used to teach karate,
Oh,
so
really?
if I really wanted to
Are
learn,
you
I
on
could.
which page, 10?
10 of.
Down there, okay.
Down there.
That's different than the actual, all right.
So,
Oh, my bad, I'm sorry.
No,
Thought
that's fine.
what-
I just always
Sorry,
need
different
to ask
10.
that question.
I just, yeah, the Taekwondo, yeah.
Oh, so that's the, basically it's the instructor, so we provide those classes up at the community center, and then we pay the instructor. We get payment from the people who utilize the service, and then we pay the instructor.
Oh,
Yeah, so he's one of the instructors at the community center that provides that.
I got
He's
you.
a contractor, basically.
Yeah, he's the contractor.
And the last one, do you have any other ones?
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I figured since we were on page 10, I didn't mean to
that's
jump
okay.
on
No, but
your
since-
beat over there. I'm
No, if
sorry.
you have something on page, if you have something else, that's
No,
totally cool.
no, it's fine.
Last one here, McQueen Equipment on page 15, it just says number 142 Street.
That's probably a street sweeper.
Yeah, I was gonna say McQueen is a street
The
sweeper.
Street sweeper?
Yeah.
Okay. It's just like maintenance, or is it we're just contracting?
That would be
services?
maintenance on that one, because we actually just replaced that one not too long ago.
I'll say it's probably, could be, and McQueen is also, which page were you on?
This is page 15.
Which, the real 15
The,
or
the,
the?
the page that's on the printout, 15.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because McQueen is also, they sell fire trucks now.
Oh,
So that's also where they'd have, like, the line above it is fire truck repair.
okay.
So I'd say that one's probably a part for street.
Yeah,
Probably something, yeah.
For $29, that's all it can be is
Yeah.
a part.
Yeah, I can't imagine, it can't be very much.
No, nobody could touch it otherwise.
Yeah.
That's Lightning McQueen's brother.
But coming right after Father's Day, that's a good father joke.
Damn jokes.
Okay, that's all I've got.
I'll check on the NBC Universal.
Anyone else? Okay, I entertain a motion to pay the bills.
So moved?
Motion by Councilmember Wang,
Second.
second by Councilmember Hatfield to pay the bills. Discussion. Hearing none, Nate, we call roll.
Councilmember Hatfield?
Yes.
Councilmember Hubbard?
Yes.
Councilmember Wong?
Yes.
I'm getting Mark's problem. Councilmember Graw?
Yes.
Mayor Winchell?
Must have been that 2-hour meeting before we had.
How many times have I called this mayor Van Isle? I just, it slips out sometimes, it's like,
A long time ago there.
yeah, I know.
I don't, like 10, 11 years.
Something like that.
All right, moves us to other business. Let's start with Councilmember Grau, please.
I just had a couple quick things. Attended the ice cream social summer bash kickoff down in the Fireman's
job,
Park. Enjoyed ice cream, can't go wrong with that. Just always a great event. Seen a bunch of families down there, saw you down there too.
Is it a nice day?
It was a nice
chilly.
day. The breeze was actually a little chilly, in particular if you got like the oversplash from the splash pad there. But, just good to see people down there, sitting in the park, listening to music on the stage. I was just, again, it's that gathering space that we envisioned when we went to put that park in the community center, or the curling center there and all that.
I have to make a note that the band kept sound checking the same song for about a half hour, I feel like. And I thought maybe I was in one of those comedy movies where that was all the song
That's all the
that was
songs
the only
they know.
song that they
Yeah,
knew.
yeah. Well, they're cheaper if they only know one
I
song.
thought it was kind of cute. I was like, it's like the third time we played this
The Animal
song.
House when they go to that bar,
What's that?
and they only do rawhide. All right, let's get back on track. We're losing
So I had
control.
that, ice cream social great event. I also just noticed signs going up, Big Woods Boulevard, Carver, 44th, so that interchange project, I think, starts next week.
Yep.
The road closes. I think the neighborhood's been up in that area, have asked me, like, is that happening still? Is that happening still? So it's happening. We'll definitely.
Getting real, they're moving dirt today.
They're moving dirt. And then just an observation that I wanted to point out, short time I've been sitting on this council, something that's come to the attention quite a few times, and Mayor, you alluded to, is just the conversation about affordable housing. And now in the course of like 3 months, we've seen, I would say, many creative and inspiring and really things that make me excited, ways to kind of address some of those things. You talked two options tonight with renting and actually owning, and we had a proposal last meeting. So just an observation that it's exciting to see. Now, those take time. Those houses aren't going to be built tomorrow, but it's just kind of exciting to see kind of developers and nonprofits and agencies coming together to kind of look at some of those things that we've heard and kind of to being addressed. So I like it because they're creative and they all have their uniques and kind of serve that different market. So just a fun observation that I want to share. That's all I have.
All right, Commissioner Wayne?
Let's see.
Member.
You getting demoted already?
No, you used to be.
So let's see. First, I think we talked about the farmers market already. There's, of course, this week is the KPMG Women's Championship, so it's really exciting. It should be a busy event. Certainly not nearly as big the facilities and planning buildup as it was for the Ryder Cup or for the PGA Championships in previous years. So it's, but still exciting
The
nonetheless.
trophy is physically bigger, though.
Is it?
Yeah.
Is it physically?
It's probably 3 times bigger than the Ryder Cup.
Ryder Cup you put in your pocket
impressive.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So, which is very cool. On Thursday, June 20th, there's an open house for Highway 212, and this is really going to be at the Carver County Public Works in Cologne, but this is to discuss the highway improvements between Highway 5 and 25 in Young Emerita to Highway 11 in Carver. So, but they know a lot of people, come through Chaska, go out from Chaska out that direction. So for people who are interested, I wanted to just kind of share that. I know it's in the Herald too, but I want to put that out there. For those who really, really hate like unwanted telemarketers or spam calls, or wanted to share your opinions about protecting smart devices or broadband and digital inclusion and things like that, and there's a number of issues around inclusion and economic disparity and things like that. The FCC and Consumer and Governmental Affairs group will be having a meeting at the Chaska Community Center for a public meeting from 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. at the Lodge on Monday, June 24th.
No, Tuesday.
Just Tuesday to 24th, okay. Tuesday to 24th.
That doesn't sound, July,
No,
is that?
Is it
No,
June
no,
24th?
next week.
I thought it was Monday.
The dates don't sound right.
Because I think it's Monday, Monday's the 24th, Tuesday's the 24th.
Let me check. real quick.
Tuesday's the 25th.
Yep, so it's Monday, I thought it was Monday. It was,
You're right.
okay.
Get my days mixed up here.
So it's Monday, June 24th.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Monday, June 24th, of the Consumer and Governmental Affairs from the FCC. And so this is the federal there's a group of representatives from the federal government, from Washington DC will be out here. And they'll be, here to talk about and to also listen to our concerns here too. So if you have concerns about that, you want to share that and voice your opinions directly to people who are working in DC about this, this is the time and place to do it. I know it's kind of the middle of the working day for a lot of people, but I want to make sure it gets out there. So that's Monday, June 24th at 9:30 to 10:30 a.m. at the Lodge at the Community Center. June 24th, also it's the same day as the Southwest Christian 18th Annual Golf Tournament. We mentioned this before at the Chaska Town Course. July 11th through November 15th, we have the exhibition at the Chaska History Center, which we talked about before. So about World War II and the fight overseas and support at home. And July 19th through 21st is the Fire and Ice Festival, so that's something to look forward to. So I know it's a really big event here in town, so if you haven't been to it, it's a great event to attend. And I've got a couple other things, but congratulations for City of Chaska for the Star Tribune 150 Best Places to Work. So that's a testament to all the work that staff has done here, and so just want to tip of the hat to them. To everyone here, and all the great work that everyone's been doing, creating the amazing environment here.
Can I pause you right
Yes.
there while we're on that?
Yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
Matt, did you want to touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, so first of all, a huge thanks to Stephanie and her HR department. She sort of headed this up, and really when we got into it, the main purpose for it was we wanted to have a formalized feedback mechanism for our employees to be able to give feedback and have something that's measurable over time so that we can compare things from one year to the next based on feedback that we get one year. And the nice thing about this tool is it was divided into departments, so we could really sort of get the feedback down into a tool that the department heads could use so that we could continue to look at what are things that are important to our employees and how do we improve on that, and then be able to measure that over time. So it absolutely has been a great tool for that. We've been able to sit down with all the departments and talk about that, but I guess sort of the bonus is that it's our first year participating, and we ended up getting in the top 150, so that was great. And the great thing about it is, we had 88% participation from our employees in the survey.
We have 152 eligible to take the survey, 133 responded, which is 88%.
Yep.
The benchmark average is 67.
Yep.
Excellent.
So it's a true testament to the employees who are here and the stuff that they do, and the stuff that they do day-to-day basis that just make it a fun place to be. But we really like the survey tool. It's nice to have that steady feedback mechanism to be able to get a more 360 view at the entire organization. So, but I think I mentioned tonight at the meeting, the League of Minnesota Cities and the City of Eden Prairie. That's probably the only two sort of municipal type of organizations. But there was actually quite a few people we noticed that were like Chaska businesses that were in it. So like Goodman Group, Bailiwick, some companies that we work with like Mortensen, Bolton and Menk is in Chaska, they were in there. So a lot of people that we have pretty close relationships with and work with were in there too, which, as I think about it, I guess sort of doesn't surprise me because my impression has always been really good of their organization. So it's sort of, so.
Yeah, just a couple other things out of that. We did rank 47 out of 50 in the mid-size employers, so they had large employers, mid-size, and small. We were the smallest of the mid-size organizations to be ranked in the top 50. The strengths that stood out for Chaska, other than I gave those numbers already, but the strengths that stood out for Chaska are employees believe the organization is going in the right direction, and employees think senior leadership understands what's going on. Those are really two huge things that really makes a difference in how they perform, and I really just think, from a guy that worked here 30 years ago, when I can look around and still see a handful of people still working here, that just tells me that something here is being done right. And this here kind of really says it. And, Matt talked about it as that, obviously turnover, maybe sometimes is good, but it's not always good. we have some real specialty, especially with a utilities company, that those, it's amazing how much those folks know that if we have an outage, how fast they can go and find it, because they know it. It's not like an Excel employee that comes in that's been working in Woodbury and all of a sudden shows up here and has to know where our guys know all that stuff, and that's what's important about retention. And this stuff just kind of just defines what's been happening over the last few years, getting all the right people in the right places, and it's
But there's
awesome.
been some structural things too. I think about one of them in particular is in our contract with our Public Works Department. We have a incentive pay system that's tied to basically creating a work plan for working into whatever your next potential job is. So if you're a parks maintenance person and you aspire to be a parks foreman or even maybe the public works director at some point, we have an actual structural system in place in our contract that somebody can sit down with their department head, talk about their future, where they want to go, and create a plan for how to get there. We provide that training, and as they get further along in it, there's an incentive for pay that goes along with it. So not only does it give them some initial benefit, but it also is helping us train our leaders for the future too. So it's, to me, that's been, great to be able to look at from, especially union contract perspective. That doesn't always happen. But I think about like Kevin's department. I mean, we've talked about a lot of times, he has a department that 5 years from now is going to look a lot different because of, retirements and things like that. And so the things that are being put in place to really sort of talk about that transition as people get to that point is going to be really important stuff. So.
How much, and if you really look at that, every department head, I'm sure I'm missing, there's probably some that I'm not, but a good share, let's just say a good share of the department heads all work for the city and have moved up to be department heads.
Not all, but a good portion of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, I forget other departments, but a good share of them, which is, really says a lot of things, and they've all done a really good job. That's what we've been fortunate about, so. All right, sorry, I cut in on you.
No
So,
worries.
go ahead.
And two other things. This is something over the past month or two, I've received quite a few complaints about people who live in the Canyon Road neighborhood, or about that left turn into from down 41.
The signal timing?
The signal timing.
Oh,
Okay.
that's brutal.
I know that it's been an issue over the years, and it's one of those things that it's one of those things I definitely wanted to bring it up again, because I know that there's still a lot of frustration about it. That's the number one complaint in that neighborhood by far.
All right.
And whatever we can do to help provide some relief there, because I know that some people get frustrated and have to make alternate turns or things around there. Okay. One other question that I know that's come up quite a bit too, that come around town, has been, I know that the Lake Grace Pavilion burned down like not too long ago. I know there was discussion about it being rebuilt, but is any word from Jonathan and what
They are planning on rebuilding it. They found that the insurance process has been a little bit more lengthy than they thought, but I can't remember where we were at. I think the mayor and I were somewhere and talked to, talking to the person that's in charge of the management of the Jonathan Association now, said it is something they plan on rebuilding. I don't know if it's probably not going to be in use this summer, but I do think their intent is as soon as possible to do that.
Yeah, so it's basically, when they can get insurance and then, do preparations for.
Yeah, and I think they're also going to probably look at, over the years, the function of that has really changed quite a bit. And so I think they're going to really look at what is it that they most want to accomplish down there. Because like when I moved to town, there were still changing rooms, and there was ping pong table and stuff like that, and they had lifeguards down at the beach. Well, most recently it's been more of a passive park where you might have a family reunion. So I think they're going to really sort of look at what's the main purpose of what they're trying to accomplish there.
Yeah, but I know that's all under Jonathan's purview, but
Yep.
I know that a lot of people ask about that.
I would hope that everybody in the city of Chaska goes to that robocall meeting and let the FCC know we're sick and tired of that stuff. They catch them, put them in jail, and make them listen to a telephone going off every 10 minutes for 48, 24 hours a day.
It's okay to, you don't have to answer the phone.
We don't answer the phone
Especially
anymore.
have them call from their neighbor's number, so they think
Anymore,
it's.
unless you leave a message.
Voice
I'm
of
gonna
justice.
suggest when they call and ask for a message, I'm gonna suggest I give them their number.
Yeah.
You don't bother you, huh?
But that's all I've got.
All you got? Councilmember Hubbard?
Sure, just a few things. Couple of constituent follow-ups in regards to just the overlap between council members. One neighborhood, the Bavaria Hills neighborhood, was just inquiring about where things were at with adding a street lamp over by their park gazebo.
We just talked to Brian about that.
And, yep, you were following up, I just figured I'd note it on here.
Yeah.
that
Yes.
that it's in the works.
It
And I
is in
think
the
it's very timely with all of the break-ins in the vehicles. Please, people lock your vehicles, bring your garage door openers inside
So
from
the
your
common
vehicles.
theme that we've been finding with all these is they're not breaking into locked cars. They're they're getting into unlocked
Unlocked
cars.
cars, yep.
And so, I think the big message, and I've seen it on his, what's it called? Ring? Yeah, what's it called?
Ring.
Ring, yeah, his doorbell camera, he showed me things in his neighborhood in southwest Minneapolis that you can see them go to cars, and if it's locked, they're moving on. So it's very imperative that people lock their cars.
Well, it's talked about that this is really, they're close to major highways, they come into a neighborhood and they're out
It's like
fast.
they're swarming. I mean, yeah, they're kind of kind of like you said, zoning and hitting and things, so I just wanted to note that. And then, also, another constituent in regards to golf cart ordinance, which is something that I talked to Nate about, so just like to note that's something that I want to follow up on as a council eventually here.
It's been a long time since we addressed the golf cart ordinance. I think the last time we did, was before most of the neighborhoods up around that area were even built.
Yeah.
So what was it, 1986 or something? was
86,
the-
yep.
Yeah, was the last time that was looked at. So we're getting some survey data from other communities around to sort of see how they handle golf carts in the road and stuff like that.
Yeah, so just making that on the record here. Talked to Matt in regards to not necessarily a Chaska constituent, but a client of mine who is kind of frustrated about our permit pulling process in
Yep.
regards with HVAC. So it sounds like we got him answers in regards to how that's done and looking at the credit card implementation, so that might help a lot. I plan to attend the Chaska Part 30 concept plan that's going on next Monday, just because I came in late at the planning or the work session, so.
You'll get a big advantage there because you'll actually get to see the concept plan, so.
Okay.
We did
I didn't
not
know
see it.
exactly what
We
you
did
had
not
and
have
had
it.
not seen.
Did not see it then.
So, I mean, I plan on going, so, to
That
that,
is the 24th?
yes, it is next Monday from 3 to 4 PM at the Chaska Event Center, so, yep, the 24th. And then I attended the, informational task force meeting with, Attorney General Ellingson and, Senator Jensen in regards to prescription drug pricing at the community center this last week. It was very informative. And did the ice cream social as well. That's, I think, the big things on my list, so.
Okay.
I have a little bit of a list. Lots of exciting things happening downtown Chaska. So everyone hopefully got a mailer with all that information on it, but coming up, the farmer's market, ladies' night is kicking off on June 20th. Music in the park on Wednesdays at Fireman's and Fridays in City Square. So just tons going on downtown. So check them out on Facebook or Instagram, and they're always posting about that stuff. And literally, it's almost every night of the week you can come downtown and find something to do or shop or eat or whatever. So it's awesome to see so much happening and our little vibrant downtown we have. So that's a lot of fun. Thanks to all the park crews and all the crews that have worked on the dog park. So my children are dogs. And so the dog park has been exciting for me, and I was at the Unleashed Extravaganza or whatever it was called, but, and all the nice paved walkways now, and, it was just lots of fun to get out there, so. Not actually that many like mosquitoes or gnats or anything either, so that was really nice back in the larger area. So thanks to them. And then on a more, another thing I want to mention about downtown is there's something very exciting coming Wednesday, or at least exciting in my mind. And they'll be kind of unveiling that, so follow them on Downtown Chaska on Facebook or Instagram. But it includes the hashtag Where Is My Chair, and some local artists that got to do something kind of fun, and you'll probably see those pictures of those popping up. So Wednesday, that's right, Wednesday, they're gonna drop them off?
Yep, Wednesday we'll start putting those out. So the Downtown Special Service District acquired a number of picnic tables and Adirondack chairs, and then worked with the Carver County Arts Consortium to bring in artists to paint the chairs, all sorts of different designs. And so those.
You've actually been painting them up in our garage here on Creek Road.
Yep. Yep.
So they're all different, decorated differently, and then I think a couple are gonna be stationary, but a couple are gonna move around.
Yep.
So that's where the hashtag Where's My Chair comes in. So it'll be fun to try and find the chairs as they move and sit in them and enjoy downtown. So that's the other exciting thing. And then the only other thing I had as a more somber note was just to make sure we remembered Florence Olson. She was a past council member from 91 to 98, so almost two terms. I knew her as my doctor's wife. I was very little when she was on the council, but she definitely paved the way for women to be on the council, and was one of the few first women on the council, and really cared about city open spaces and green spaces, and big on getting things like the recycling center. She also, I thought it was really interesting, the former mayor Tracy Swanson gave her eulogy at the service last week, and she talked about how Florence was actually the recipient of the Service Above Self Award, which is the highest city honor, which I thought was amazing. So she was definitely an inspiration to me. So
There should be an article in the Star and Tribune one of these.
Well,
Didn't you get a call? You got a call.
I got a call.
I did too, and,
I did, and I got a text from Kevin just asking me who were some people that would be good people to talk about Florence, and that's,
yeah, we've got-
so.
Yeah, I think it's Tuesday. They pushed it back a few
okay.
days, so I think.
I thought they only did that
Tomorrow
on
or
Sundays.
Tuesday next week.
No, tomorrow.
Okay.
I think, so it just hasn't come out yet.
I had to talk to at least 5 different people in town. The reporter that called me.
she was a really amazing woman. So if you have a chance to read up on her,
She definitely was Miss Environmental for her time. She didn't mince any words about that.
and she really cared about Chaska. So
Yes, absolutely.
that's all I had.
All right. Nate?
I don't have anything to add.
Kevin? Good. Liz? Oh, she ran away. Lukey?
Nothing but go out to the tournament at Hazeltine, buy a banner on your way out.
And I just talked to our this morning, our communication manager about how we go about getting tickets, because I heard that you can still go purchase tickets. So if you go to kpmgwomenspga.com, you can go about buying the tickets, right, Kevin, there? Actually buying the tickets there, and I believe, I'm sure it's gonna be all electronic, and you go right to the site and can go to the tournament. So there's, so you have plenty of, if you wanna go to the tournament, you definitely have the opportunity to go.
And residents can still go tomorrow and Wednesday for free too. We still have those tickets, right?
So we do still have some left? More than one?
Yes, we still have some left. I mean, it officially ended today, but if people do come in tomorrow and/or Wednesday, we'll have some still on hand to give.
Do they go to the basement,
They
the lower
just go to
desk?
the first floor desk.
Receptionist?
Yep.
Okay.
Mhm. And then the other thing to mention is parking is all on site this year.
Okay, that was my question.
So, and it's free. So you shouldn't have any
That's
issues
what's-
in the neighborhoods. We did, actually last week, work with the tournament to put a letter out to some of the houses kind of bordering the course on the east side, so.
And there's also a bike lot this year too.
Yeah, so if you're driving in, you're coming off of Pioneer Trail, so right across from the high school, so the old, what was the walking entrance in the Ryder Cup is now the driving entrance. If you're walking in, you need to go to Hunter Mark, kind of across from the Kohl's parking lot, and walk in there. You won't be able to walk in where everyone walked in at the Ryder Cup. They won't let you do that.
Okay.
But otherwise, you can walk up and down Pioneer Trail.
And that man that keeps hopping to the mic is Kevin, right? He's our communications manager, if anyone wants to know who that guy is. So,
I think they need your help though.
all right. Luke, you're good? Anything else?
No.
Matt?
The only thing I'll point out is just make sure you look at that works session schedule I put out there. Let me know if there's any issues with that.
Well,
Other
we should, so it looks like now July is a 5 Monday, so.
So there'll be something
Which
with each
means
of the,
there's gonna be one, according to what you're saying, is you thought we might not have one on the first, but now we are having.
yeah,
we're
there's
gonna need
only
a short
one, there's only one item on there, but we really need to do it that night.
So we need to approve that, so that means then there'll be one on the 17th, no, the 15th. Is that a work session?
That is a work session, and so is the 29th too.
But it doesn't, oh, there it is, starts at 5:30 on the.
Well, I haven't nailed down exact details, but that's
Probably start,
that's
yeah.
when I'm thinking it's gonna start at 5:30.
Okay. All right. Just looking through your bi-weekly, if there's anything else we need to touch on. We touched on just about everything there. Equity, I don't know, we really don't have any more to report at this point, do we? From Monday?
Well, we are working with the parent group that was involved in our discussions, and they're actually, we got together with Jeff Philippik from the Southwest Chamber for the Farmers Market, and there's gonna be 3 evenings during the farmers market this summer that they're going to celebrate 3 different cultures in the community, and so they're gonna have entertainment and food. And that'll be included as part of the farmers market down there. So that's gonna happen. They actually have the dates chosen, but I can't remember them off the top of my head, but it's 3 different ones throughout the summer.
Maybe somebody could bring that for the June 1st meeting.
We could bring this,
Yeah. But then they're also working to move if you remember on the Sunday of River City Days, there was cultural celebration events that occurred. They're actually going to be working on their Park and Rec department to move that to the Sunday of Fire and Ice. And we think we can actually still get that in for this upcoming event.
The Sunday of Fire and Ice?
Yep, so there's, during that day, we have root beer floats.
I didn't think anything happened on Sunday.
Yep, there's root beer floats, kids fishing clinic, there's a 5K fun run. So incorporating into that, sort of around the noon hour of that.
Okay.
And one actually thing that, when Kevin was talking about the ring, there's something that jogged my memory about something. I saw something the other day about Amazon partnering with like local police departments to provide free rings as a way of providing like a community network of monitoring. So I don't remember the exact details of the program, but I thought it might be worth something looking into, because by doing that, basically, if imagine if like every other neighbor had like a ring on your street, right? Then something happens, there would be some video evidence of what happened, who was there, and it's certainly a deterrent for thieves, because obviously, no one wants to get caught on camera doing something. So when they know the doorbell right there has a big blue light saying, that I'm watching you, right? So it's I know that it's something Amazon's trying to work to provide some sort of service at either free or some sort of offset costs, so that way that the communities could have them and use them as a deterrent mechanism.
I'll
So,
check on that.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, everybody, we're all good. Just a couple things. I thought this was interesting. Steve Patterson from Twin City Live is going to be the Grand Marshal for the River City Days Parade. So, and seeing as we're all pretty much new up here, we usually walk in the River City Days Parade on Sunday.
Are you kidding me? That's why I ran for this.
Perfect. Perfect.
I'm kidding.
And we'll work out some details. We individually buy candy as a group, and then we hand it out. What did you ask?
I said, do we get sashes, you know?
You can. But I have to get one for Princess. May as well get
I'll
two.
accept a crown.
We get one, we get two.
I'll take the third one, just to even it out.
I don't want to leave you guys out.
Do you have you been given a name tag? Have you gotten any name tags for?
What, none of us.
Am
have
I still a
Oh,
commissioner
okay.
according to my name?
No, it's corrected, because it was, did you see
Do
in the
any of you
bill it
guys
was
have
paid
that?
for? Did you see that?
Name?
I didn't catch
I
that.
don't naming things.
Have not got it.
Not got one. So this is hello, my name is.
Days and River City
that
Days,
what you
we do
prefer?
have a booth there, and we try to
Yeah, I know about that
pick a
part.
time.
I have to write mine every time.
Okay.
We'll get you
So
some
we
hello, my name is
self-buy
stickers.
candy and hand out? So you're saying we buy candy?
I go to like
You put a happy face on it, sure.
Yeah.
it's probably something we could do, but we
There's a
don't.
lot of things you can do with duct tape.
Matt,
Can I hand out for you, please?
is somebody gonna come back, like Marshall, when the Nick Mason, what's it called here? He wants to do that scholarship thing, right?
Yeah. And it's actually already established.
Okay, so I don't know if it's.
We can have him come though and give sort of
I
a,
mean, somebody should really kind of talk about it. I
well,
mean,
maybe even have an Anna come and talk a little bit about it.
And if you guys wanna maybe see if that can happen at a
Yep.
future meeting,
Yep.
but I think that
She's great.
would be.
Yep. That was a very neat memorial service. I
Yes, it
thought.
was.
Yeah.
So for others, Nick Mason served on the park commissioner. He worked for the Chaska Herald. He's relatively been around here a short time, but he definitely created some friendships. And, but he passed away, and his wife had a memorial service at the event center, and I thought, wow, that's really strange. But it was, I mean, he went there, they had a full meal, they had an open bar, and more importantly, she talked for maybe 5 minutes, just gave it, and then she opened the mic up, and it was actually pretty hilarious, some of the things about Nick I never do. But it was just, it was an hour and a half, or 2 hours, maybe 2 hours, I think. But it was kind of really a neat event, such a different way, and that was truly that celebration of life, so. But anyways, his wife and Nick talking before he passed, that they wanted to do something, and so they're gonna do, is it a scholarship?
Yep, it's a
It is a
scholarship.
scholarship.
Yeah, it's a scholarship both for people who are in need, who we want to incorporate into park programming that we have, but also looking at some of the things that end up being a barrier for people getting into, especially with like adaptive sports. Some of the equipment's pretty expensive. And so being able, we have a new adaptive sort of programming person at the Park and Rec department now, that giving more access to things to get equipment and things like that, they'll open up our adaptive programming options that we just don't have now. So it was really a neat idea.
Yeah, so, okay. But just maybe have her come in sometime, I think that'd be a nice little touch, let them talk about it a
Yep.
little bit, so. All right, lastly, I am gonna be out the next 2 council meetings, I'm gonna be gone out of town, so I'm gonna turn it over to our pro tem at that point. And, he, also, I sit on a tab board, and I need an alternate, and seeing.
Transportation Advisory Board.
Oh, sorry,
Yep.
there I go.
Yeah.
I hate using acronyms, and I'm getting terrible with them. And we need to have an alternate, and with me now being gone in July, we felt it was appropriate that Mike, as a pro tem, is gonna be the alternate, so he's gonna come with me to the meeting this Wednesday and get introduced, and then he can jump right in the fire at the next meeting, so. But, all right, last call. If not, we can move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilmember Hatfield.
Second?
Second by Councilmember Wang to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Post same sign. We adjourned. We'll see you here July 1st.